This show is produced by the Harwood Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris, and we love making this show available to you free of charge. If you'd like to help us keep it that way, make a contribution to our Karma Jar or become a show sponsor. To learn more, visit our website.
Today I'm making a honeydew and lime sorbet. If you've ever had fresh honeydew with a squeeze of lime, you are going to love this sorbet. It's refreshing and light. It's great as a dessert, or if you want to serve it in between courses, it works great for that too. Now, honeydew is a really large and it's a very dense and heavy melon. It's got a light skin like this on the top. And then what you do is you want to cut in the middle. You don't see where the ends are. We don't want to cut it that way. We want to cut it across the center like this. And then inside is this wonderful green melon and these seeds. So we have to get those out. So I just take a large spoon and I scrape them out. And when they're cleaned out, they should look just like this. Now, to make this into a puree, we're going to have to cut it up into some chunks. So what I do is I cut it into some slices like this. And then I'll take the slices and with my knife, I'll run it along the bottom about halfway, turn it around, and do the same thing on the other side because the rind we throw away. We can't eat that. So this is all just melon flesh, and I'm going to cut this into some chunks because we're going to put that in the food processor. Now I've cut up about 3 cups of melon, but the bottom line is I need 2 cups of puree, so I still have another half a melon if I need to get more cut up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a puree. So in my food processor, I'm using my metal blade. Now if you don't have a food processor, you could certainly use a blender and that would work too. I'm going to start by putting all of these chunks in, and I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to start this just on a pulse. And then once it grinds up just a little bit, I'm going to hit the on button and let it puree until it's nice and smooth. Isn't that the most beautiful green color? And now I'm going to strain the puree through a little strainer. So I have a little sieve like this that sits, and this is my large 8-cup measuring cup that I use for all the ice creams. It's just such a great bowl to mix in, and then with the little lip it pours really nicely into the ice cream maker. Now when you go to pour your puree out of the food processor bowl, make sure you put your finger up in the center so you hold that blade in place. We don't want it coming off. And then I'm just going to push that through. I'm just going to use my rubber spatula and I'm just going to sort of stir it a little bit, and you can see there's so much liquid in here. It's just going to come right out, but I do want to keep pressing it until I have 2 cups of this puree in the bottom of my bowl. Now once you get the initial bit of liquid out, you're going to have a lot of pulp like this, but you can see if I start sort of stirring it, more and more of that juice is released. Now I'm right at my 2-cup mark, so you can see all I'm really left with is this really thick melon paste. So I was able to use just half of a melon today. Now next we're going to add our sweetness, so that's 2/3 of a cup of sugar. Now remember, with a sorbet it's really important that we get that sugar dissolved because this doesn't get cooked, and if the sugar doesn't dissolve in the puree then it's going to be kind of a gritty sorbet, which we don't want. So I'm going to stir this in well, and then I'm just going to let this sit while I get my lime juice ready. And for me, what makes a honeydew, whether it's a sorbet or a fresh wedge of it, just spectacular is some fresh lime juice. So I'm going to go ahead and I need to get 2 tablespoons of lime. I've cut up 2 limes and I'm going to take my reamer and I'm just going to juice that into a small bowl. Wow, these are really juicy limes. How nice. And I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons of that fresh lime juice and add that to my bowl. Now we want to stir that lime juice in, and we also want to make sure that all of that sugar is dissolved. So take a minute or so and give this a good stir. Now it's time to freeze our sorbet. So I have my ice cream maker, and I'm going to put the chilled bowl on and the dasher. And then I want to get the lid on because I want the machine to start running. And now I'm just going to pour the mixture right down the center, and I'm going to let this churn for about 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, your sorbet is going to get nice and icy, but we do need to harden it off. So I'm going to take and spoon it into a freezer container, and I'll put the lid on this, and I'm going to let this be in the freezer for an hour or 2, and then it'll be hard enough where we can scoop it. Now it's been just a couple of hours and the sorbet has hardened off really nicely. Now you can absolutely serve this sorbet as a dessert, like if you wanted to have a trio of different sorbets, but it's also nice to serve either in between courses or after your starter because it's got such a refreshing taste to it. It cleanses the palate really nicely. Well, if you'd like to try this honeydew and lime sorbet at home, just go to our website and go to the Sundaes with Cindy show notes page, and I'll have the recipe there for you. And as always, if you have any questions, please send me an email. See you next time.